My name is Kevin Daly. I'm a user interface developer at Wolfram Research. And today I'm going to talk to you about some updates and so future directions of where we're taking presenter tools. So I would like to talk about everything I've done to improve presenter tools, but I can only hit basically some big ones. In particular, I will talk about our new strategy for improving what you see is what you get. And then along that direction, some other things like the modernization of the presenter tools packlets layout and how we've improved encapsulation of the presentation environments. There are quite a number of quality of life improvements as well that I'll, I guess, highlight. But my point is that if you've not used presenter tools before, or so you're new or you're an old user of presenter tools, give it another shot. You might be surprised at how seamless it is lately. And so to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm going to give a brief tour of presenter tools. So go ahead and get out of the presentation mode. And so what is presenter tools? This is, in a way, our Wolfram Notebook experience for a slideshow, very similar to Apple Keynote or Microsoft PowerPoint. You know that you're in a presentation mode if you have, say, the title bar here or the authoring toolbar at the top. How you get into a presentation, you can do this either from the welcome screen or the File New menu. You'll see Presenter Notebook as a choice. It'll bring up this dialog. You can choose a theme, so the default theme, garnet, facet, etc. You can preview what the slides will look like before you settle on a particular theme. And one of those nice quality of life improvements, you can just double click on one of those themes instead of hitting the create button to start your presentation. And so once you're here, as I said, the top is the authoring toolbar. That's sort of the main feature of the presenter environment. What I'm in right now is the so-called slideshow working screen environment. To show you what that means, if you go to the Format menu and you look at the screen environment, we'll see that we're in the slideshow working environment. There's actually 3 different environments that come with a presentation notebook: slideshow working, scrolling presentation, and slideshow presentation. These environments are unique to presenter tools, and I'll touch back on that later in the talk. But just again, going through a overview of what presenter tools provides, starting in this working mode, because this is a presentation, some of the easiest things you should be able to do is create slides. So that's the prominent button on the left here. We can create new slides. And slides are a page break, but they're represented here via a cell frame label. So you get this nice tab telling you how many slides are there, which one you're on. There's a gear menu that gives you some slightly additional functions for that slide. But given that it's a cell, the cell bracket is still hidden underneath the cell frame label, and it groups very strongly. So if you click all the way to the right here, you can actually group the entire cell, or sorry, the entire slide. And that way you can cut and paste and move these around very easily. One new thing that we've, quality of life improvement as well, is now if you click the tab itself, it automatically selects the cell group. So it makes selecting these cells a lot easier because automatic cell brackets like to hide themselves if you're not hovering over them. So we've organized what's in the authoring toolbar, trying to keep like things related to cells grouped together, etc. So as you click around, you'll see that the cell style is labeled for you wherever the selection is. You can change your, let's go ahead and put in a section cell. This is a section. So once you have a cell style in that you want, you can then change its style here, bold, italic, underlined. You can even do things like nudge the cell up and down, left and right to get it positioned exactly where you want it. And then some features that you might not be aware of, we have 2 palettes. The slide outline palette, oh, that's on the wrong monitor, one sec. And then the notes palette. What's nice about these palettes is most likely you would have them on the other monitor if you have a dual monitor display. And they give you a nice way to navigate your presentation while you're giving it in sort of like a secret on the other monitor sort of way. So with the slide outline, I can generate some bitmap previews, gives you a nice just overview of how long your slide presentation is. You can click the slides to navigate to them. The top bar is just like the navigation bar in a presentation, and you see every window is reacting to these changes. It doesn't matter which one I use as the navigation, they all react accordingly. One other nice thing about the notes palette is you can add a note to a slide. So what is a note? So a note is something that shows up when you're in the working mode of the presentation. But if you were to go into a presentation mode, those notes disappear. They just kind of collapse and are hidden from you. So this is a way for you to, let's go ahead and refresh the notes. So these notes will appear for you in your notes palette, but they won't appear in the presentation itself. So it's a nice way to give your, like a note to self, basically, so you don't forget a key point of your presentation. Let's see, other things that you can do is, let's say, I've chosen this garnet theme in this particular presentation, but I maybe didn't like it. So I can actually go into this hamburger menu and change my presentation theme. Let's say I want facet instead. So I can go ahead and choose that, and the style sheet updates automatically for you. And now I have a facet theme for this presentation. And if I'm in the slideshow or scrolling, actually the slideshow mode, you can even publish your presentation to cloud and actually view that in the slideshow mode when on the cloud. One other kind of nice feature is if I close this presentation, you'll notice that those two palettes disappeared with that closing action. That's because those palettes are tied to this particular notebook. And so you close the main thing, the palettes go with it. So if you have multiple presentations on your screen at once, it can get confusing, but at least they're all tied to each other. So that is the brief overview and tour of presenter tools. I'll go ahead back into my slideshow. And I can maybe toggle full screen. But we have one big change going into 14.2. You might have already noticed how things change as you change the window size. So what I mean by that, let's go ahead and make this a bit smaller. So as you change the window size, you'll notice that the notebook content increases in size with the width of the notebook. What we were doing before 14.2 is we were sort of faking this. We had font size, cell margins, and cell frame margins scale with the window size with some arbitrary scaling factors. But that left out a lot of things that were desirable. In particular, elements of the notebook content area, even like the input and output cell labels, those weren't scaling. And so we've switched in 14.2 to scaling the notebook's magnification with the window size. So you see here, as I change the width of this window, the magnification of the notebook itself is changing. This is pretty important because as we get richer and richer displays and user interfaces, it becomes difficult to futz with them to get them to look just right. So what I mean by that is, if you have, say, a manipulate, one of our very classic rich interfaces, it should just look correct now in 14.2. The buttons all size accordingly. Everything is magnified at the same level. Your tooltips and graphics and all of that look correct. Yeah, all of these, because one of the interesting things about, like, say, grid, for example. If you want to organize things in a nice grid-like layout, grid actually uses font size as its way to space things, like its spacing is defined by the ambient font size. And so as you have richer and richer interfaces that really need these grid layouts, they just don't scale well as the window size changes in like 14.1. But now all these things sort of just happen for free. So audio and video interfaces look great now. Anywhere you might see a summary box looks great. And yeah, I would imagine any other interface you make going forward would also look just fine in presenter tools now. The other thing that's kind of nice, let's say I've just got a plot. Ooh, get my hands on home row. So once I have a graphic here, the other nice thing is that I can enlarge it. Here, maybe I'll get out of full screen mode again. One thing we've always had is that if you click on a graphic, the authoring toolbar changes such that you can lock the graphic to a certain size. So if I lock this and then change the window width, you'll see that the text has expanded in size, but the graphic has not. And the reason is that we are basically fixing the magnification at whatever it was when you locked it. But it's very easy to either clear that setting and then it goes back to scaling as you intended, or I could, lock it at one size. Maybe I didn't like that as I make the thing narrower. So yeah, you can go back and forth with locking or unlocking this graphic, and if you're done, you can always clear those settings later. This is nice in the sense that if I'm making a talk and I wanted that particular graphic to be, you say, half as tall as the screen, I can just resize it without having to lock it at any particular size. And now if I resize the window, it should scale pretty well to maintain this, this size. Yeah, that's still roughly about, 50 or so % of this screen height. All right. So yeah, that's very nice scaling that we get automatically with magnification. Sorry, I keep jumping around like that. So then how did we implement this? We actually unlocked this sort of with a style hint, so it should be adjustable by the end user. But what we've done is in the style sheet itself, under the notebook style, only for the presentation environment, so slideshow working, scrolling presentation, and slideshow presentation, we are setting the magnification option. And the value in particular is the magnification scale style hint multiplied by the current window width, so basically the first component of the window size. And the style hint is this funny number here, 0.0014, etc. And where did that number come from? Well, that comes from trying to go from the old world to the new world. If you were to look up a style sheet in, say, 14.1, you would see 0.019 times the window width for input and output cells. But if I was in just a default notebook, you would see that the input and output has a font size of 13. Yeah, no, it's really not a secret. It's just the ratio of those two values gives us the scaling factor. The reason I chose this in making this conversion is because we're a computational notebook. And so our computations are in input and output cells, so they really should be the forefront of this overall scaling factor. I could have chosen text, title, etc., but really the conversion from the old world to the new world wasn't exactly one-to-one everywhere, but you should only see a slight shifting of things in updating your old notebooks. So yeah, now we have to talk about that. This is a backwards incompatible change. If you are just starting a new presentation, you have nothing to worry about. So if you go to File, New, Presenter Notebook, I choose some notebook, everything is already here, like all of the magnification, scaling, etc. No worries. But let's say you have a style sheet that you've changed your private style sheet of that presentation, what do you do? I tried to make this as easy as possible. And so I created a function repository entry, convert legacy presenter style sheet. And so just to show you how nicely it works, I am going to open a presentation. This is using the 2017 Tech Conference template as an example. And what I've shown here is a section cell using this template, as well as this dynamic output showing you the cell margins of a section cell. And you see it has all these weird scaling factors that I explained previously. So all I need to do is get my resource function, convert legacy presenter style sheet, and there you go. It has taken the private style sheet in this presentation and updated it to no longer have those scale factors, but it's also scaled everything based on your current monitor aspect ratio, and all of the margins, font sizes have just become numbers. Usually integers, maybe font size, I allow for half values, and if you were maybe squinting a bit or focusing on the section cell as I did this, it did shift slightly, but overall, it should be almost identical to what you had in the old world, at least as close as we could get it. So now you might be asking, where do these particular screen styles come from, or screen environments? So where do slideshow working, scrolling, and slideshow presentations live? Well, they're not defined in the core style sheet. They're not defined in the default style sheet. They are defined exclusively within the presenter tools paclet. What's nice about this is we get a very tight encapsulation of what it means to be a presenter notebook. If we add a presenter tools core, for example, which holds all the functionality of what it means to be a presenter notebook, if you were to add that as a secondary parent to your private style sheet, it will have no effect on your regular working environment. But it would then give you access to these 3 screen environments. So in a sense, you can give any notebook through a magic incantation, any notebook can become a presentation notebook just by giving it a secondary parent to inherit from. Most likely, that's a bit advanced, and I do have in this bonus section a way to show you how to do that. Actually, I should probably just make a function repository entry to do this for people. But normally what you would do to get into a presentation is just start with one. As I've already shown, you can do that through the File New menu, or you can do incantations with some kernel functions using Create Notebook. So I can create a Garnet presentation. And if you didn't know, Wolfram Alpha has always had presenter tools baked into it. And so if you have any Wolfram Alpha notebook and you go into the screen environment menu, you'll see those environments. It's just not the default way of working with a Wolfram Alpha notebook. And with this other incantation, you can even open a Wolfram Alpha notebook in presenter mode with default content present to sort of get you started. So this is more maybe into the weeds, showing you the modern Paclet layout. If you look at 14.1, it doesn't look like this in the sense that, you know, Paclet info is a .m file. The kernel support packages are sort of just in the top level, but we've just cleaned it up. As I've been doing other quality of life improvements, I decided to clean up the Paclet structure as well. So now all of the kernel packages that give support and the functionality to a presenter notebook all live in the kernel directory now. And just keep in mind, feel free to use the functions you find in these, but don't rely on them. Since these do provide the functionality to presenter tools, we developers have the freedom to change these at will. They're not documented. And one thing I've mentioned multiple times now is if I go into the style sheets folder for presenter tools, you'll now see a presenter tools core style sheet. Before, there was quite a lot of duplication in the style sheets for presenter tools. They all had the functionality built into them, so aqua, carbon, default, etc. And I challenged myself to simplify this workflow in the sense that take all the functionality of what makes a presenter notebook and put that into its own sort of core style sheet. And then now the themes is, yeah, basically Facet. All it does now is like change the background of the title slide, maybe some cell margins are different, and the theme coloring through style hints. But besides that, all the functionality now for scaling with magnification, et cetera, is all within the presenter tools core style sheet. So let's take a sneak peek at some new features coming with presenter tools. One of them is we want to take the default toolbar technology that we have for normal notebooks and utilize that for presentations. So let's see. Instead of just looking at a picture, why not see that in action? So what I mean by this is that if you were to make the notebook narrow, we get this nice overflow menu where all the buttons get put into this pop-up. We have nice grouping of all of the functionality. So anything having to do with slides is on the left now, such as your slide outlines, notes, and any sort of less often used functionality is now put into these drop-down menus, like inserting slides with a background. And this is the same as before. Scrolling and slideshow modes are in this drop-down. I can change the window size very quickly because it's always present. It's no longer sort of hidden with narrow notebooks. And because of all this extra room, we can even add more things to this toolbar that weren't there before. So one of the new features we had with the default toolbar is this ability to change your cells framing and stuff. And so now it's all, I mean, this probably should have been in presenter tools for a while. But anyway, now we have room for it. So why not put it there? So don't expect that in 14.2, but I would hope to see it soon afterwards. One other thing that we're considering is doing some automatic scaling. So let's say you have, so this red box here represents your screen. If you had content that you wanted to show at its maximum size, and you have something that is bigger or say wider than your screen, one problem is you might have to then horizontally scroll your notebook within the presentation environment. That's no fun. So we're considering methods to just automatically shrink to fit your content for certain cells. And same with vertical. So if the vertical size of your output is too large for your screen, we would just automatically shrink to fit. So that way, no matter if you say are developing your presentation on a laptop and then go to present it on some big projector, the idea is that this should just work regardless of the aspect ratio of the presentation environment. It should just shrink to fit whatever is being presented. So that's what I wanted to get through today. I do very much want to highlight another session that's later today, the Notebook Front-End Office Hour. I very much welcome any and all feedback and where we should take presenter tools, as well as other features within the Wolfram Notebook front-end. And so let's see, get to some questions. So the first question I see here, is it also possible to print a presentation, so say to paper or PDF, and have the normal options you would expect in a PowerPoint presentation? So printing the slides, multiple slides per page, double-sided. That is actually a feature I have been challenged to work on. It is on my to-do list, but I have not gotten there yet. You can print as normal a Wolfram notebook because the slides are page breaks. So you will get at least one slide per page. But it's been a while since I've tried to print like that. And so I'm going to move on to the next question. How do you get the left and right margins the same? I always get the slides unbalanced. That is also an improvement that would be worthwhile exploring. I think what you mean is that if I have a presentation, um, you'll see that the margins on the left here for this title slide, actually I can just ask what they are. Current values, style definitions, title, cell margins. So in this case, the left and right margins for a title slide or a title cell are both 55, but that doesn't really account for the cell brackets. So even if I were to go into, let's see, why not just go into something else? So like this section cell here, I should be able to go to cell actions and align this left and right and center, etc. But what this is actually doing is, if I peek under the hood here, this is just changing the text alignment of the cell, but that only gets you so far. Oh, it also only changed it for the slideshow working mode. That's a bug. No, it's on this slide. So yeah, is this really centered? Let's see, if I have a measuring tool. Yeah, I guess it depends on how much text I've gotten there, doesn't it? Because at some point, if I were to keep typing, it's staying relatively centered. So yeah, maybe there's some things we can improve here, maybe not, but we'll definitely look into that. Another question, the file browser navigation that I showed in the presenter tools is very nice and should be generally available in any style. Oh, thank you. Next question, stability and slowness still prevent me from using these presentation features. Any chance the style templates will be modernized? This is a first step. When you say slowness, I don't expect people to really be clicking and dragging their notebook often in a talk. Most people will be at full screen or non-full screen. I would be curious. Please, I encourage you to, whoever asked this question, Michael Salami, if you come to our office hours, I'd love to hear more concrete examples of what you mean by slowness. Let's see. Oh yeah, I forgot to make my slides immediately available. I'll work with the conference organizers to get these slides out as soon as I can. And so how to start a presentation for the current slide and not from the beginning? Excellent question. So if I have my slideshow working mode, the start presentation button as itself does actually 3 actions. It makes it full screen, jumps to the first slide, and yeah, I guess it's just those 2, toggles full screen and goes to the first slide. If you just want to go to the existing slide, it's based on selection. So here, if I put my selection within slide 11 here and use the drop down, I can just start a slideshow presentation, and it should start on the slide where the selection is currently. Does a change of magnification in the lower right corner adjust the window size in 14.2? Ah, you hit on something I was trying to avoid. So we will fix this going forward. So right now, the magnification widget in the window does not match what's happening in the notebook. We know about it. It's on our to-do list to get that right for 14.2. So that way, if you click the magnification widget, it will do the thing you want it to do, either scale with the window or otherwise. If I were to use it right now, it'll actually just sort of change the magnification to an absolute value, and you'll kind of lose this scaling with window size. I don't think I have time for any other questions. I got through the ones that had votes on them. Again, thank you all very much. I'll respect your time if you want to attend other sessions. So yeah, thank you all for your time and attention. Hope to see you all in the front end session later.